Welcome to Unit 13 of the Lay Pastors Ministry Equipping Seminar entitled Managing the Difficulties. It is inevitable that you will encounter some problems in your ministry. Through this unit, Dr. Mel Steinbronn hopes to give you some tools and suggestions on how to manage those difficulties towards success. Here is Dr. Steinbronn.
No ministry is without its challenges, its problems, its threats to continuation. But if these difficulties are managed positively, the challenges and threats can be assets rather than liabilities. I've discovered that there are 7 common problems that all churches face who have the lay pastor's ministry. But these problems become discouragements, but then when they are prayerfully and positively managed, they can actually make one's ministry stronger. So there are these 7 difficulties or struggles, problems, whatever we call them, challenges. The first is some people think they do not need a lay pastor. When you call them, they will respond with saying, I don't know just what this is, but I don't think I'm interested. This won't happen very much, but it does happen occasionally. And the reason for that usually is that they do not understand the purpose. They don't know how good it feels to have somebody who loves them, who cares about them, and who is praying for them. I think of one lay pastor. Her name was Nellie Pratt, and she experienced this resistance. She was assigned one family in their early 40s. The husband and wife were. They had 2 teenage children. And when she called them to ask about making an appointment with them, she got the response that they were not interested and that they wouldn't have time really to fit somebody else into their busy lives. But Nellie Pratt, bless her heart, in her inimitable way, said to this woman, and I wouldn't do it this way, and not many others would, but Nellie would. She's unique, and we are all unique in our own way. But she said, can't you let me come? When I became a lay pastor, I committed myself to visit all my people. Can't you let me come just to fulfill my commitment? So that opened the door. She went and visited this woman whose husband was at work and the 2 children were in school. And according to her word, she wasn't able to get away. She was there for 2 hours listening to this woman pour out her heart. Finally, the phone rang, and she had to go to school and pick up her children. So Nellie exited very rapidly, and the door was open. She went back at other times when the whole family was there. It developed into a very beautiful relationship. They didn't think they needed a lay pastor. Well, if you hit a situation like this, there's a little formula that's very helpful. MP/MC. Maximum prayer. Spend a lot of time praying for these people. / minimum contact. The contacts you can go pretty slow on. The second problem is that some people are very busy and therefore difficult to contact. It has to just be accepted that some people are real busy. And in a situation like this, excessive insistence is counterproductive. But it is also true that giving up on people like this is counterproductive, and it cuts out doing what God wants us to do in tending the flock. So it calls for patience, for persistence, for sensitivity, and for balance. A balance between respect for them and respect for God's call in your life. The third problem is that lay pastors get busy and neglect their people. Lay pastors are busy people too. You are busy. And so you've neglected your people for a while, and you ask yourself the question, now what can I do? There's embarrassment, a twinge of guilt, and discouraged about knowing what to do. Marlene Wilson, in her book, How to Mobilize Church Volunteers, says in a situation like this, there are 3 things to do. One is review the job description or the ministry description. Look over and see what it was for sure that you committed yourself to do. And the second is to clarify the problem and be explicit about the expectations. Really focus on what the trouble is, on why it was, if it was procrastination, if it was getting excessively busy, if it was just getting discouraged with a whole lot of things. Clarify the problem. The third step to take is to examine the alternatives together with the leadership. And the alternatives may be, one, to release that person from pastoring. Second, to renew the commitment. And I've found that most lay pastors want to do this. They sense that they want to complete what they started out doing, that God has called them to do this. Once they find out how to get back on the track, they're ready to pray and renew their commitment. The third alternative is to reduce or restructure the flock. Maybe there are too many. Maybe some people in there excessively difficult. And the fourth alternative may be other possibilities which will surface in the process of talking about it. The fourth very common problem is that people have problems you can't solve. And here is a time when a lay pastor comes with this complaint that these people have problems that they just can't help them with. It becomes a learning opportunity to help them see again what a lay pastor is and what a lay pastor does. That a lay pastor is not a problem solver, not a rescuer, not a counselor, but love with skin on it. A presence, a listener, a lover. There are some guidelines for referring because some problems need to be referred to a person on the staff, one of the pastors or whoever. When there is serious illness and you see that the life situation has deteriorated, it does warrant a contact with the staff. And then another is that when there are serious problems needing more than listening and being with, and that kind of activity can meet the problem, to contact the staff. When you encounter spiritual, biblical, or moral problems, you may want to refer them to the staff. Always, however, respect confidentiality. You are committed to confidentiality. Often when you ask a person, can I talk with the pastor about this? They'll say no, because if they had wanted to talk with the pastor about it, they would have done that also. Moses was to handle the greater matters, as we read in Exodus 18. And I have wondered many times what those greater matters are. There are lesser matters and greater matters. Moses was to take care of the greater matters, the leaders of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, the smaller matters, for whatever we can make out of that. But you know, even God himself does not solve all of our problems. The greatest problem, which is death. And in Psalm 23, we read, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." God is with you. He's that super pastor, and he takes that approach to be with you rather than to solve the problem. So as a lay pastor, you are not a failure if you cannot solve people's problems, but if you have listened, and if they know that you care, you are a success. The fifth difficulty is that lay pastors experience differing degrees of acceptance and effectiveness in their ministries. This is the reality of pastoring. Some people are going to welcome you with open arms, but some of those open arms may fold after a while. Other people are not going to be anxious about this at all and may not let you come or may hold you at arm's length. But that may open up beautifully like a flower to the sunshine somewhere. So the reality is that you will experience differing degrees of acceptance, maybe from icy blue to fiery red. Never be judgmental of people. Never be discouraged. Don't blame yourself. Just know that that's the nature of relationships, and that especially is the nature of pastoral care. Some people don't want me to come around and see them either. Now, I've mentioned that a few times. The fact is that at least 95% of the members of our churches are open to lay pastors' ministries. The other 5% remain a real challenge to continue praying for them and being available to them and caring about them no matter what their response is. The sixth problem is that there are no apparent needs or crises. But when there are no struggles that people are going through that you know about, do not conclude that these people do not need a lay pastor. Pastoring takes on a non-crisis form. The ideal time to enter into the life of a person as a lay pastor would be when everything is just going wonderfully. Then you can build a relationship for when the chips are down and things are not going so good. But know that any contact that you make results in a bonding that is taking place. When there is a crisis, when people are in trouble, there are ready-made elements for the contact. There's notification, there's purpose, there's a time, and there's a focus. For example, if a person goes into the hospital, you are given the information, the purpose is very clear for the visit, the time is set because they're in there now, the focus is that they are sick. But in a non-crisis contact, you have to initiate all four. Nobody's going to be asking you to come in all probability, but you have to notify yourself that it's time to make a visit. You have to establish the purpose, and the purpose might be just as simple as getting acquainted with the person, knowing them better. You have to set the time. It doesn't have to be done today, it does not have to be done tomorrow, and therein lies the chance for procrastination. Time for report comes, and thank goodness for reports at times, because it helps us to know that it's time to call on people. And then the focus. A crisis has a focus of its own, like the person in the hospital. You have to create the agenda for this contact. And it might be just as simple again that we haven't seen you for some time. Let's just get together again and talk for a while. The seventh difficulty is that some people do not feel pastored unless an ordained clergy pastors them. For example, one may say, I know the Krugmans have visited me, but I want to see the pastor. Well, first of all, be sure, if you're going to handle this right, that you believe in Ephesians 4 and the call of God upon your life to be a pastor, so that you do not feel ignored or unappreciated. The second is, the pastors need to work at validating the lay pastor's ministry in their teaching and preaching, and also practicing by relinquishing ministry. Here it takes the cooperation of the professional clergy. The next is that the official board needs to take action, and this needs to be communicated with the congregation so people know that this is the form of pastoral care for the congregation, and their expectations follow that. The next is to be firm and consistent. Vocational clergy are going to have to relinquish the ministry, and this is going to call on them to hold steady to this commitment. And then the next is to accept the reality that some people are never going to make the paradigm shift. Some people are going to have to be double pastored, both by the vocational pastors and the volunteer pastors. But I have known many people who have been weaned from vocational pastors by a very good job of lay pastoring. Well, there are more problems to be sure, but they need to be worked at by prayer and consultation. Always accept them as challenges, and you will rise above the problems to effective fulfillment of pastoral care, a true blessing to your people.
This concludes the Lay Pastors Equipping Seminar. There are three very important principles that form a bridge between the seminar and your ministry. First, you are now equipped to pastorally care for God's people. Listen to Jesus tell you what he told his disciples in the upper room. Now that you know these things, you'll be blessed if you do them. Your challenge for the coming days and months is to increase your knowing so you can increase your doing. Second, you've been given excellent training. Instead of being handed a set of procedures and rules to follow, you've been given a ministry direction. You are accountable to God to use your special gifts in your unique way within your church's established structure. Third, you needed this seminar, but please know that training will only help you be successful. Your effectiveness as a lay pastor will depend on the Holy Spirit moving through your personality into the lives of your people. Your friends at Pastoral Care Services stand ready to help you in any way possible. Feel free to contact us by phone, fax, letter, or a personal visit. May God prosper you in your new ministry.